The House passed the sweeping George Floyd Justice and Policing Act this week. But as long as partisan politics remains the status quo, lawmakers will continue to fail Black Americans. I'm Dometi Pongo, and this is MTV News Need to Know. Yesterday, the House of Representatives took up the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, a bill that aims to protect Americans from police misconduct, chokeholds, and no-knock raids. As expected, the measure passed in the Democrat-controlled chamber, but not without full Republican opposition. This is the second time Congress has taken up police reform in the 9 months since the killing of 46-year-old George Floyd in Minnesota. The resulting racial reckoning of 2020 brought on some tangible changes thanks to public outcry exacerbated by the pandemic. Everything from statues of slave owners being torn down to corporate sensitivity trainings, sports teams changing racist mascots. We even renamed Aunt Jemima. The one thing that did not happen was widespread accountability for police officers who killed Black folks for no reason. We changed the name of a goddamn syrup before we legislated against white supremacy. And when the House took up a police reform bill in 2020, the measure stalled in the then Republican-controlled Senate, where Mitch McConnell failed to even bring it to the floor. Fast forward to this Wednesday, 8 months later, when the House voted on a revamped version of that bill. It's called the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. MSNBC's Kyle Griffin reports the bill overhauls qualified immunity for police officers, bans chokeholds at the federal level, prohibits no-knock warrants in federal drug cases, outlaws racial profiling, and establishes a national registry of police misconduct to be managed by the Department of Justice. Now, one of the most important parts of this bill is addressing qualified immunity. Qualified immunity basically means that police aren't capable of being prosecuted unless they're A, intentionally violating you, or B, unreasonably incompetent. Obviously, there's lots of room for interpretation, meaning qualified immunity is one of the loopholes that allows officers to go free. Simply put, as Robert McNamara, senior attorney for the Institute of Justice notes, qualified immunity gives government officials a rubber stamp to violate your rights. This is how Breonna Taylor's murderers get away with blatant atrocities. It takes an extraordinary amount of legal argument and evidence to hold police officers accountable, even when they are entirely in the wrong. How does it feel to know the police could get away with barging into your home while you're asleep and shoot you even when you haven't done anything? And just a reminder, police aren't supposed to kill guilty people either. Unsurprisingly, the Republican Party of Law and Order has historically been against ending qualified immunity for police. They've argued that the policing business is dangerous, complex, and should account for a wide range of leniency when it comes to officers making decisions about how to do their jobs. They've called this push to end qualified immunity a poison pill. They've united to vote against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. In fact, the one Republican who voted for the measure later took back his vote, saying he voted for it in error after realizing he accidentally pressed the wrong button. You really can't make this stuff up. This week, GOP representatives have continued to rail not only against this bill, but other social issues, like the inclusive renaming of Mr. Potato Head to just Potato Head. By focusing on this, GOP leaders decenter solutions to advance equity and human rights. As Bernice King, CEO of the MLK Center, tweets, it's really sad that there are people who are outraged about Mr. Potato Head, but not about Mr. George Floyd. How telling that people who don't support a Justice and Policing Act think their way of life is being threatened because of actions concerning toys and children's books. The bill will head to the Senate next, where it's destined for another stall by Republicans. Democrats have a slim majority. They need 60 votes to withstand GOP obstruction, which means 10 Republicans will have to join them in support. Not likely. Other progressive efforts are in for similar blocks by Republicans, with a House-approved bill that would expand voting rights headed toward a procedural stalemate in the Senate. This is why young people are increasingly impatient and more likely to support defunding over reforming. The slower we inch along the road to equity, the more Black bodies suffer in the wake. When it comes to matters of life and death, impatience is a virtue too. But this cycle is going to continue unless Democratic leaders can become as legislatively aggressive as their GOP counterparts. Now, America is considered a world leader, but it will be embarrassing if at the end of a national racial reckoning, all we have to show for ourselves is a few toppled monuments and a renamed bottle of syrup. I'm Dometi Pongo, and that's what you need to know.